through the roll call. So we'll just go through, since there's nothing controversial at all on this. We'll just go through by district. District 1, aye. District 2,
Aye.
District 3, Jeff,
Aye.
District 4. I could see you. I could almost hear you.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. District 5.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, public access forum. Is there anybody with a desire to communicate with us today? Dr. Williams?
We had nobody contact.
To in the future? Anyone wishing to address the board on issues not found on today's agenda typically may do so in person. During the peacetime emergency, those wishing to address the board on issues not found on today's agenda may send a written correspondence to the county administrator and being heard in person. The board will be presented with the written request. County board members will not engage in dialogue about the issue, but rather refer the matter to the appropriate county department with an expectation that a report will follow. A citizen may be heard at the public access forum only once per month. Okay, consent agenda. Is there any items that anybody wants to see removed? Otherwise, I haven't heard of any yet.
I have several. Morgan.
Okay, which ones?
I'd like 2, 3, and 6. I would like to pull for discussion, and on 3 I have to abstain on.
Okay. Just so can you, for everybody else, can you say which ones those are, Jeff?
Numbers 2, number 3 I need
Right.
to abstain on, and number 6.
And are you looking for updates on those other ones, or do you?
Yes, and I am undecided as to how I'm going to vote on those.
Okay. Okay, so with, looks like with 2, perhaps we could do that under administration, and 6 we could do under environmental, and 3 perhaps we could do right after this one, right after we do the consent. Would that be okay?
I would be fine. I would move the rest of the consent agenda.
Okay, does anybody else have anything else they wanted to see removed? If not, a second would be,
Second, Steve.
okay, thank you. So Commissioner Mergen, seconded by Commissioner Knotts, with the exception of 2, 3, and 6. All in favor signify by saying aye. District 2?
Aye.
District 3?
Aye.
Aye.
District 4?
Aye.
District 5?
Aye.
District 1? Aye. Okay, let's, do we have the appropriate person? I think we do, to talk about number 3. Randy, would that be you?
Number,
Yeah, and I think
number
Jeff
3 is
Jeff-
just an abstain.
Okay, all right. So then we'll need a motion and a second on this. Thank you for reminding me, Joe.
I'll move that, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Notch. Okay.
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor by, is there any discussion, the other discussion? Okay. Otherwise, we will go ahead, I'm going to try to rotate these, so we'll see how I do. District 3 is an extension. District 4,
Aye.
District 5,
Aye.
District 1, aye. District 2. All right. Thank you. All right. So our next area is environmental services. And I think Paul is not here. Let's go ahead and go with the water update first, and then we'll look for a motion on the on number 6 and from under the consent agenda after that. Shelley.
Madam Chair, Shelley Benson, Environmental Services Director here, and I do have Becky Schlorf and Cole Lowen to present this item. So packet page 55, and Becky, if you want to start.
Yep. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Becky Schlorf, the Ag and Water Resources Division Supervisor, and I'm just going to make it quick and turn it right over to Cole, our Environmental Specialist, to proceed with the update.
Thank you. Good morning. Cole. We cannot hear you. Might have to take your headset off, unfortunately.
I hope we saw a screen anyway.
Oh, we still can't hear you.
Becky, do you know the presentation?
I could try sharing my screen. I see Cole was planning to share his screen, and that's not coming through either. But I can certainly give the presentation as you all have it in your packets. Let me just pull up another screen here. So the intent today was give you a summary of the water planning, and there's a little bit of history some of you may have heard before or recall, and so we're going to give a little bit of a brief update on that. It did start in Minnesota in 1977, and it was legislated by our state legislature after a drought, and in 1985 we had the first legislation that was passed for the Comprehensive Local Water Management Act. Our first water plan for Stearns County was in 1991, and we've been having a plan with partners implementing that plan for the last several decades. In part, we had a Stearns County Water Plan Advisory Committee that helped for many years to network and provide input, and that was disbanded in 2012. More on our partners as we have one watershed, one planning meetings, or just reaching out to them for input. And we also will be updating our planning commission. In 2008, the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency developed a 10-year watershed approach. So every 10 years, they're going to be sampling watersheds and to determine the status of the watershed, the water quality in those watersheds. And then in 2013, the Minnesota Board of Water and Soil Resources developed the One Watershed, One Plan program, and that was in response to legislators wanting to see more watershed-based planning versus county water planning. And in 2016, Stearns County secured an update or extension rather on updating our county water plan because we have a number of One Watershed, One Plan projects throughout the county that are ongoing or will be on starting. And so our current water plan for the county is not due for an update until 2025. And that again is because as we work with these watershed partners, those plans are being developed and implemented. So the first one that the county was involved with, as you probably realize, especially Commissioner Mergen, is the North Fork Crow River watershed. And the one that's ongoing right now is this Sauk River watershed. And so I'll get into a little bit more of those details going forward here. There was a paradigm shift in the water planning, as I somewhat touched on earlier, and there's a chart here from the Minnesota Department of Agriculture on the Minnesota Water Management Framework. So this chart is helpful in looking at where the local leadership lies versus the state coordination. And so the state on their end, they're doing the monitoring and assessing and investigating the problems and characterizing those watersheds. And then the locals are developing more of the civic engagement and priorities and plans for how to move forward. And the major watersheds that we have in Stearns County are the North Fork, Crow River, the Sauk River, of course, which is a major part, showing 48% of our land base in Stearns County. Then we also have a little bit of the Clearwater River watershed, as well as the Middle Fork, Crow River. And then we also have the Mississippi. The north part is the Sartell, the southern part is the St. Cloud. So for the North Fork Crow River watershed, this is an implementation plan that is in process. And so that was approved by the state and by the partners. And so that would be the counties as well as the watershed, the watershed district, as well as the soil and water conservation districts. And this plan is through 2028. And so it has the MAPS study, which is the state's monitoring that they do, and that's the every 10-year study. And so it's already in that second one. So the lake trends are improving in one lake, and then in 2 lakes there is no trend. There are no lakes showing a decline in water quality within the North Fork Crow River. And there are 2 lakes with impairments and 5 streams with impairments. So the implementation strategies in the plan include implementing more cover crops, feedlot improvements, field erosion controls, nutrient management, and septic system improvements. The Sauk River watershed, which again is 48% of our land base, and as the diagram shows, it's within the the pink areas. And as the diagram shows, to a public hearing, that One Watershed, One Plan will be heard at a public hearing on January 28th via Zoom. To you to give that nod to take it to the Bowser, the Board of Water and Soil Resources, for their final approval. And so this watershed has also been under state monitoring and is also in the second phase of that. We have 9 lakes in this watershed that are improving, 19 with no trend, and 3 that are declining. And there are 24 lakes total with impairments and 29 streams. Again, the implementation strategies are the same as the North Fork Crow River. Then we have the Mississippi St. Cloud watershed, and that has not yet begun a One Watershed, One Plan process. And there are talks about that starting in the next year or so, about how that might progress. It is, again, like the others, in its second phase of monitoring by the state, the second 10-year phase. And we have 5 lakes that are improving, 8 with no trend and 0 declining. And there are 5 lakes with impairments and 6 streams with impairments. Again, very similar strategies for implementing water quality improvements. And then the Mississippi River Sartell, there again is not a One Watershed, One Plan started, and this may or may not be combined with the St. Cloud Mississippi watershed. That remains yet to be seen. And this watershed has only had a RAPS, the first RAPS completed, and the second one has not been started. We have 7 lakes in that watershed that are improving, 7 with no trend, 0 that are declining, and we have 2 lakes that are impaired and 12 streams that are impaired. A little bit different implementation strategies. It is somewhat, has somewhat more urban areas, so there's some more conservation cover and field erosion control measures. And so I think that might be all that I would have, other than, I guess, I could ask Steve Notch too, if he wants to weigh in on anything regarding the Sauk River watershed, one watershed, one plan that's in process, or even Commissioner Merkin, if you want to speak it out to the North Fork.
Commissioner Notch?
Yeah. River watershed, at the last couple of meetings there was a little, some of the counties, it almost looked like, it could maybe get out, but, and I think.
Steve, I can't hear
Bowser-
you. I don't know what the deal is.
Can everybody else? How about now?
Now I can.
Can you hear me
You
now?
were out.
Okay.
You're intermittent. I don't know if that hurts or not,
Okay.
but you're intermittent.
That's good.
Okay, anyway, so the public hearing's gonna be January 28th, to go over it. Then it has to go to Bowser, I believe, Becky or Cole. They have 90 days then to review it and, give their blessing. Then I think it comes to the county board for final approval. This one's been pushed out probably a lot longer with COVID because we haven't been able to meet, as frequently or to get it done. We can get it in place and move it forward.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's correct.
We can hear you.
Think you might be able to hear me now? Yeah,
Yes.
well, Becky did all the hard work, so now I'm going to show up and just take the accolades, I guess. So the one little timeline difference there from Commissioner Notch is after the public hearing, the policy committee has to actually vote to send it to Bowser, and then that has to come back to each of the member boards to approve sending it to Bowser. So you will see this one more time before it actually goes to Bowser to be reviewed and approved. And we're thinking that will probably be February, March, based off of the current timeline.
Oh, so the county boards approve it before it goes to Bowser.
Yeah,
right?
and that's in the development agreement. Yep.
Thanks for the clarification, Cole.
Yeah, you're welcome. Sorry I showed up so late.
Oh, you were here. It's too bad about the technology. Commissioner Mergen, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Well, just with the Crow River, with this one watershed, one plan, the Crow River Joint Powers Board, which we previously were involved with, has been disbanded. And I sit on the policy committee for the one watershed, one plan with the North Fork. And we have not met for quite some time now. So there's really nothing new there unless Becky or Cole would have something new that has come across their desk. But I haven't seen anything new.
Sure. Yeah, there really isn't much new in the North Fork. Implementation is underway. We secured the next batch of state watershed-based funds, over $1 million to be spent in a 2.5-year period in that watershed. Tentatively planning for the policy committee to have a meeting probably mid-2021, and for no other reason, just to give an update where things are at because it's been so long. And COVID definitely hasn't helped having meetings. But that's kind of where things are at in the North Fork.
And Cole, do you have any estimate at all about what might happen with either the Sartell or timing for, I know Becky, it sounded like you probably don't have an estimate, timing on either Sartell or St. Cloud?
Yeah, that's a great question. We are definitely meeting in February at the local staff level to hammer out at least 2 key items, which is one, what is the boundary actually going to be? Because there's some scenarios floating around right now of what that's actually going to be. Is it going to be St. Cloud and Sartell separate? Are they going to be combined? Are they going to be split by the river? So we need to actually hammer that out and then develop a timeline of when are we actually going to do this. There's general consensus not to be the last watershed in the state. There's also general consensus that if they're going to be split, Sartell should go first because they just completed their RAPS cycle one process, and so it naturally makes sense for them to go next.
Okay, thank you.
Madam
Is there
Chair,
any?
if
Yes. Becky.
I just wanted to also mention that the Sauk River Watershed project that's underway right now and very active is also, it's been greatly aided by our county attorney's office. And as you know from our prior discussions with the county board, we will be coming back to you as well to consider being the fiscal agent for that project going forward. So just a heads up, I guess, that work is still continuing.
Right. Well, we know there's been a lot of work done on these and very much appreciated. And Commissioner Mergen and Commissioner Notch, thanks for the work that you all have been doing. I know, Steve, in particular recently, there's been a lot of meetings. So it's good that we're moving forward. Anybody else? Otherwise, if not, thank you for the presentation, and let's move to number 6 of the consent agenda. I'm looking for a motion and a second on that, and then we can get into the discussion. This is, unless, do you want to go ahead? Yep.
Reason for pulling it was, I think it could be split into two different things. I think right now, only projects that are really necessary should be considered, not those that are just nice. For instance, I would say checking the boilers, upgrading the boilers is probably a necessary project.
Wait, excuse me. Right now, Jeff, we're actually on the solar one. We're going to do the boiler under administration, or the administration.
Oh, we're on the solar one, I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. Okay.
Yep, no, that's
the
fine.
solar one,
That is fine.
one
And one
that
of the
seems
things
like
I'm
this
going to try
doubling up is
to.
getting to be,
Jesus Christ.
So Jeff, just a second. One of the things that we've kind of gotten a little bit away from, and I think it's been COVID, and I know I've been as guilty of it as everybody else, is we've been starting to do the discussion before we have motions. So I know that you weren't, because you said you weren't sure how you were going to vote on it. Why don't we see if we have a motion and a second, and then let's go ahead and have discussion.
I'll move number item 6 in the consent.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Otherwise, just speed it up. Okay, all right, thank you. All right, Jeff.
well, it just seems to me that this doubling up of these projects is getting to be the norm rather than the exception. And it's because of the rules that have come down from the power companies or whoever is dictating them. And I noticed the Planning Commission is having discussions on that too, as to whether they should be supporting them. And I don't know, maybe Joe can add a little bit more to that as to what the discussions have been there.
And Jeff, this is all we're doing now is accepting our findings of fact. We already voted on this in our last meeting and we approved it. So this is solely doing that. So it sounds like you might want to have further discussion about, and I think we talked about staff coming back at some point with some other, there might be other information we need, but we voted on this in the last meeting. These are just solely our findings of fact.
Okay.
Jeffy, but you're right. There are a good number of there, and I think we talked about it at our last meeting about especially the taxation and how this is being skirted by let's say, for example, establishing 4 or 5 single ones opposed to a 5 megawatt field, and basically they're skirting the taxation
And I
issues.
think and correct me if I got this wrong, we also talked about that is what they're having to do right now, and that, as Commissioner Lensmeyer said, eventually the taxation will keep up to them. We also talked about that this is something that's being looked at outside of this. So just on that part. So yes, Dr. Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to let you know that we've been, your staff has been active in pursuing changes to the state law on this. We've funneled information through MICA and through AMC, mostly done the work of Jeff Johnson, but just so you know that we have pursued that. You know, who knows where it'll go, but we have let them know the details about what we've been finding.
Right, and what we're hoping to see accomplished.
Thanks for that update, Mike.
Yes, and please thank Angie Berg as well. I know we had a lengthy conversation about this last time, so unless there's something new and specific that anybody wants to talk about, I'm not trying to make it so we don't keep talking about it, but I think otherwise it's probably time to go ahead and move to vote. Again, we're just accepting our findings. We voted on this last time. And for today, at least, I'm trying to figure out what the best way to do this. So I'm not voting first all the time while I'm being chair, and maybe you all will come back and tell me you don't care about that. But so we're going to rotate now to District 4. District 4. You get to vote first, Lee.
Aye.
District 5.
Aye.
District 1. Aye. District 2.
Aye.
District 3.
Aye.
All right. Thank you so much. And we're going to continue to wrestle with this, and we've got both things that we think are real positive about this and some issues to continue to work out. I don't believe, is there anything else on environmental services, Shelley?
I had nothing.
Okay. All right. Thank you all. Then we're moving to Randy now.
So this item is designating of the tax forfeit proceeds to parks, 20% of it. And it's on page 67 of your board agenda packet. Steve Holthouse is going to address this issue, and he may try to share his screen here. This was brought back from last meeting. And I'll turn it over to Steve.
All right, Steve.
Steve, we can't hear you.
I think your mic is off, Steve.
Still can't hear you, Steve.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes. Thank you.
All right. Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Steve Holthouse with the Land Records Coordinator with the Stearns County Auditor's Office. At the prior board meeting, there was an agenda item presented at the consent for the 20% for tax forfeited proceeds for acquisition and maintenance of the county parks and recreation areas. There was some discussion around the topic, and a couple questions arose that we were supposed to bring back to the county board. So one of the questions was, is it possible to distribute less than 20% of the remaining receipts after special assessments and administrative expenses? The answer is yes. So the statute reads no more than 20%. So anything under 20 is acceptable. The other question is, if the resolution was not approved, how would the remaining receipts be dispersed? So after the admin expenses, the special assessments, and if there's no park fee, it would go out 40% to the county, 40% to the school, and 20% to the city township. I prepared some numbers based on the 2020 disbursement that we did. And you'll see here that the county parks received $19,629.57. You'll see how it was dispersed from the county to the school to the city and within those districts. The example below that is if there was no disbursement to the county parks, and what the impact may be to the city townships and the county school district also. And the county and school portion total went up an additional $7,700,
and it looks like the school was right around $4,000. Not a lot of impact to each district, but that's kind of how the numbers played out anyway. The current year, we've had $472,000 in revenue. We're probably going to have expenses around 25 to 30,000. Probably another labor in about 10,000 the way it's looking. So most of that 472,000 is then going to go to special assessments, since most of the lots that we sold are within cities. So I think we can see similar numbers for the upcoming year, whatever you decide to do.
And Randy or Steve, if we went with having it all being first without parks, that it looks like about that amount of money would need to come from somewhere else, since that's been included in the budget, or am I incorrect on that?
What Parks ends up using it for, because it is a kind of uncertain revenue source, they use it for capital projects and match of state grants. You're correct, it would have to come from somewhere else, so correct.
Okay. Other questions from members? Or thoughts or emotion?
Yeah, I don't have the lens there. I don't have any.
Wait.
Department is,
Okay, hold on, just real quick. I think Lee, you were starting to talk, and then we'll go to Jeff.
Unless you want a history of how this all came about, I don't have a whole lot to add. I just, the only observation I would make is I would like the spending decisions on this to push down to the township wherever it's collected. It's no different than property taxes. We collect property taxes for school districts, township, cities, etc. We don't have say over how they spend those funds. So I would like to see that decision-making pushed down to totally to the local level. I realize we have some limits there, but I hope we can achieve that. That's it. Go ahead, Jeff.
Jeff?
I'm in agreement with that. With this money, 40% of it still goes to the county, and the county can disperse that however that they feel is the most necessary places. And it helps out all three areas, or it helps out at least the other two areas, the cities and the townships and the schools. And again, that's more of a local control. They should be able to see better how it benefits spending in their areas. And that's kind of my thoughts on it.
Joe, I can't see you right now. I don't know if this is something the Parks Commission has talked about.
We actually had discussed, because we talked about the other issue about park dedication, and I mentioned that this was coming up. Of course, we're always concerned about funding. I guess just a background as far as Randy or Mike, if you might know how this actually came about. One concern I would have is that, when we do invest in our regional parks, we have, those folks that do come from, the school districts. Oftentimes there's activities in our regional parks, particularly by schools. Also, many city activities take place there, for example, at Quarry Park. And so the swimming we have at Quarry Park also involves people from throughout the county. So, that funding coming from those different areas there, it is being used. So anyway, back to the question with the history of this. Randy or Mike, do you have any history on this?
Commissioner Persky and Madam Chair, I think we're confusing two different revenue sources here. We the park board and we have been talking about the the dedicate, when there's a plat made, there's a dedication of money. And that is different from this. This is tax
Correct.
forfeit disbursement. And so once these dollars are dispersed, we have nothing to say about it. And this is totally goes, unless Randy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is just money that goes back to the jurisdictions. And then we are done with it.
Yeah. I
Randy?
started doing this a number of years ago. I don't remember when. But it's something that's allowed, and other counties were doing it, and then we picked up on that. Now, for the cities with the special assessments, that's their primary focus on tax forfeiture, is they want to get their assessments paid. And as you can see, it's one of the first things that we pay out, and we try to make them whole with special assessments as much as we can. But they're getting a max on special assessment. Now, for schools, what's left over after that, it can be viewed as kind of bonus dollars. Now, back in my school finance days, sometimes when you get these bonus dollars, they can be an offset to their school aid. So I'm not sure how much of a help this is to the schools. They get this money, they may get less money in their school aid. I'm not entirely sure on that. And for the cities and towns, it's 20%, so it ends up being not a significant amount for anybody. I think this was done to look at a way of helping fund some of the parks projects, and they have, of course, countywide implementation. So,
Okay. Steve, we haven't heard from you, and I can't see you. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I kind of agree with, everybody else, but maybe this is a discussion we all should have with communities in our area, just maybe get a feel for, like in this one, you can see, Melrose obviously must have had a large amount of sales in 2020. If they write assessments, something to get land sold, so they get a house or something built to get tax revenue. But it'd be interesting, just maybe, it comes up every year anyway, maybe we should all just discuss this with like the schools, or maybe administration wants to ask the schools if it affects their funding, because then maybe doesn't really help them.
So Randy and Mike, I don't think that we're just trying to draw this out. I think based on Commissioner Notch's suggestion, do we have time to wait until the next meeting to do this so that people can go get some information, or is this something we really should be doing now?
we don't have to. I mean, we won't bring this item on the distribution of tax forfeiture proceeds until like March. So we certainly have time. At the same point, this isn't big dollars. So.
Right. So our members, let me go back and check with their jurisdictions.
I do have a comment.
Commissioner Mergen.
I do have a comment to that. This isn't big dollars. That's kind of like putting only in front of money. That word only means different things to different people. Say only $5. To some people, that might be a lot. But
Point well taken. Are members willing to go back?
to some people, it's still to some of these taxpayers, it's part of the death by 1,000 cuts. It's a little bit here, a little bit there, and pretty soon it's quite a bit. And I think the more you get, the more money to local control, the better it is spent.
Well, certainly a good thing is that all of this is local. It's just different parts of local. Are members willing to go back and check with their jurisdictions and bring that back? Steve, you've obviously done the most, and it's your suggestion. Okay. If others are willing to do that, if you're all okay with it, if we could go ahead and just postpone this until our next meeting, does that give enough time? And then get back to, does it make sense to get back to Randy? Or is it somebody else, or Steve? Randy, who should we have people get back to?
If we are taking this up again at the next meeting, I'll give you a more complete history of how this came about.
Wonderful. So we'll make sure that we've got enough time budgeted for that too, because I always find that very helpful. We thank you. So, Andy,
Wouldn't
is
we
it
have to
you
check
that
with
people
more
should-
than our school district? Wouldn't we have to check with more than the school district? Wouldn't we also have to check with all of our townships, all of our cities? There's more than just the school district. Check with you.
And I want that decision-making pushed down to whoever's getting the money. As long as it's the only earmark I want to see on it is that it goes to some sort of park aspect. That's what it's for.
I,
Go ahead, Randy. Or Mike, sorry.
I don't think that we have the authority to, if we don't set this aside for our own county parks, it would just be distributed, and we would not have the ability to earmark it and make sure that a city or a township spent it on parks. We would not be able to do that. On the park,
And I don't think we should be able to.
we're talking on the park dedication fee, which is a totally different subject. We are going to bring back to the county board a revised ordinance that gives more authority, as much authority as we can to the townships, because that's a whole different structure of financing or funding.
Great. Yeah, that's what I was going after.
Right. So we've got two different pots, and we just need to keep remembering this is the tax forfeiture money.
Yeah.
Okay, so check with folks, get back to Randy, and then we'll move forward in the next.
And Jeff, if I might respond, I'm concerned about, the tax dollars as well. But working within the park commission, with these entities contributing to that, they do get a return. And I don't, I keep an eye for wasteful spending within that department, within our use of those dollars. Again, I see us using those dollars quite wisely within the parks. Those are good investments that pay off at the present time and also in the future, I believe.
Okay, good. And if there's anything else we should be reading between now and then that's helpful, perhaps you, Mike or Andy, you all can forward something to us. I think I'm the only person who wasn't here when this decision was made to start doing this. But perhaps if there is something that helps us with kind of thinking this through. Because Jeff, Commissioner Mergen, I totally agree with what you said in terms of the impact, regardless of the dollars in different places. That's true for our county parks as well. So it's just something that we should keep in mind. We will make the decision on this at the next meeting. And I believe what I'm hearing you say, Dr. Williams, is really it's either with or without the parks. Otherwise, the breakdown is the way it's shown on here. Okay.
Yes, correct. And I think, as Randy said, we can probably well outline for you. Randy probably can figure out how this impacts school districts by just talking to a couple of supers.
Okay.
I can do that.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Let's move to administration. We've got the COVID update, and then we'll also have, go back to number 2 from the consent agenda. Do you want to do the update first, Mike?
Yeah, I think that'll be fine, Madam Chair. We have Sarah here. She's going to talk about the business relief program, and then Melissa and Aaron, I believe, will talk about mostly about cases and how the vaccination program is going. So maybe you want to start with Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Sarah Utsch, Finance Director with the Auditor Treasurer's Office, and I'm looking for the ability to share my screen. It doesn't appear I have that ability right now. While that's coming, I just thought I would kind of remind you that at the last board meeting, we did talk about, that there? Okay, so at the last board meeting, we talked about a plan whereby the county received a little over $3 million for development of a business and nonprofit relief program for those that have been impacted by executive orders relating to the pandemic. So Stokes County was allocated just over $3 million for that relief program, and applications opened on January 11th, so a week ago as of yesterday, and I just wanted to give you a brief update on where we are at after 1 week. Just to verify, you can see that presentation, correct?
Yes.
So far within the first week, this is Monday through Sunday, I believe, or Tuesday through Sunday, we received 262 applications from nonprofit entities that were eligible in Stearns County. So this is a bi-day thing. You can see that the first 2 days were very popular submission days for the program. We did ask each business to say what kind of business they are, just so we could gather some information for presentation purposes on who's looking for assistance at this point. And we had 66 bars and restaurants, which made up 25% of the applications. Another 47 in retail and shopping, and 26 in travel and lodging. So those first three on the left are the three most common business types that made up our applicants so far. As far as where applicant business nonprofits are located in St. Cloud, with Sartell having 24, White Park 16, and Cold Springs 13. So those were the top 4 jurisdictions so far with business applicants submitting applications. A couple additional statistics. We did ask as part of the application that they tell us what other funding they have received to date. And so I just put the numbers up here so you can see how many of those 262 applicants had received the PPP, the EIDL, and some small business administration loans, as well as county or cities care relief money from the last round. So of that 262, 13 of them expect to receive this most recent Department of Revenue funding directly. So a small number of the applicants are expecting that money that was most recently passed with the legislation. So this little word puzzle, word cloud here, kind of tells you we had asked a question: what's your intended use of the grant funds? So the bigger the word, the more people that use that word in their response. So you can see pay rent, payroll, utilities. Those are kind of the things that they're looking for assistance with, those kind of expenses. The average amount that those 262 applicants requested is $14,461. And if all the applicants are eligible and get exactly what they requested, our total requests in the first week of the program is 3.8 million. And so is over the amount of this 3,084,000 that we were given by the state to disperse. So the next steps briefly will be that we have partnered with the county HRA and the St. Cloud EDA to help review applications, and then we'll begin prioritizing them based on need and the previous funding received, so we can kind of prioritize which ones, as we may not be able to assist all of those that are requesting assistance. And then from there, the county committee, which is made up of the administrator, the auditor treasurer, the services director, and the EDA and HRA, will review those recommendations and start awarding funds so that we can get these businesses some of the relief that they're looking for in this time. So with that, that was a quick update. I wasn't looking for any specific action. I just wanted the board to see where we're at in the program and be able to have a discussion where needed. So
Dr. Williams. Thank you, Sarah. Dr. Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Sarah, for that review. And I just wanted to say that this is, you're seeing now why we crafted this the way we did, so that we can use some subjectivity as we move ahead here, because we have considerably more requests than we can fund. And so that's why we left this a little fuzzy, so that the committee can take a look at these and hopefully come up with some reasonable recommendations that uses all the funds but distributes them to those most in need.
Thank you. Any questions for Sarah on this part of it?
Sarah, I've got a couple of questions. Do any of those entities come from the area of apartments and mobile home parks?
Yes, there were a few. Not a significant number, but there were a few.
And then,
Okay, go ahead, Mike.
just Commissioner, that the, particularly rental units really were not the focus of this program. And there's some federal money coming down that we know of that should help them, but this was really aimed at more of the businesses that you just saw represented there.
Yeah, and that's fine. My concern is that actually the way some of these funds have been used and the way they've been treating their tenants, I don't know if that's necessarily the best option that's going on for the people actually in those units. In particular, there's a mobile home park here that recently increased their rates by 10% to the tenants. And I'm questioning whether they should be receiving any aid when they've already, increased those rates to their tenants. Which gets me to another question. People renting in the mobile home parks, do they have an option to get any relief from any of the COVID money that we have? I know apartment owners possibly do, but what about mobile home park folks?
Well, we can see if Melissa's aware of anything, but I know in the first round when we had our CARES funding, we did have an individual assistance program whereby anybody who needed assistance with rent, utilities, or even mortgage payments could be eligible at that time if they were impacted by COVID. That program has ended, but I don't know if there's another one currently available.
So these funds are state funds that are specifically for businesses and smaller businesses and nonprofits at this point.
Right.
Hopefully there will be some additional ones because I'm sure we're all hearing about individuals and families that are continuing to struggle. Melissa, is there anything else we should be aware of? Are you next or is Aaron next or as long as somebody gets to that?
You're correct. Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Melissa Huberty, Human Services Administrator. I have nothing to add on that. What you summarized is exactly right on point. And then Aaron and I were going to do just a really quick PowerPoint, can answer questions mostly about giving an update on vaccines.
Okay. How about if we let you get through the rest of that and then we'll come back to if there's any additional questions or concerns that people have. Go for it.
Good morning, Commissioners. Erin Tufte from Emergency Management. And yes, Melissa and I are here to share a brief update with you about the status of our vaccination campaign in Stearns County. Just to confirm, you're able to see the screen?
Yes.
All right, sounds good. So as you may remember, the last time we met with you and provided an update, we were just beginning our allocation and prioritization and distribution for vaccine in Stearns County as phase 1A. And we talk a lot about this and we hear a lot about this in our news reports and in the community. So I wanted to quick run through the 3 phases again so that we're all on the same page. In phase 1A, there are 3 different sections. The first section, or that first priority, came out with hospitals, specifically COVID units, intensive care units, and emergency departments, as well as long-term care facility staff, EMS personnel to include all 3 ambulance, police, and fire, COVID testers, those people that are working at the community testing sites, as well as our community vaccinators. And so people like the strike teams that we put together to be able to disseminate and administer these vaccines. The second priority was hospitals and was expanded to all personnel in hospital settings, continued long-term care facility, and adding urgent care settings and dialysis centers. And then third, and where many communities are at this point, is the addition of clinics, home health care agencies, emergency shelters, dental offices, pharmacies, public health clinics, the mental and behavioral health settings, correctional settings, and group homes. And we as well just add directors to this list as well under that category. So as we move forward specifically in Stearns County with our first allocation that was given to us for that priority 1 in 1A began the first week of January. For our police departments, fire departments, which is just about 50 departments in Stearns County, as well as our vaccination strike team members and community testers. We are just about to conclude, should be today, with all of our public safety strike team members and community testers with dose 1. So in just a week or so, we'll be starting the second dose for all of those individuals. We are moving into now our second allocation distribution, which begins this week for step 3 of section 1A. Again, the entities like clinics, dentists, correctional facilities, that type of a setting, as well as school nurses and healthcare clinic staff at the colleges and universities in Stearns County. We are setting up clinics to continue to administer the doses that have been specifically assigned to Stearns County, as well as working in partnership with Centricare for vaccine that they're making available to their partners as well. Partnership we have with Centricare, we have multiple clinics available over the course of the next 2 weeks in order to get through all of our vaccinations in phase 1A of this rollout process. I'll move to the next slide and let Melissa Huberty jump in.
I was able to sit in on a Minnesota Department of Health meeting with Commissioner Malcolm yesterday, and then there was an announcement in the afternoon by the governor that the state is going to be sponsoring these piloting community COVID-19 vaccine programs. Stearns County and the Tri-County area was selected as one of those sites, and we will be opening up a community site for the expansion, which is the 65 and older and the early childhood and through 12th grade and child care provider groupings. So more information will be coming out actually today from the Minnesota Department of Health, giving specifics about how somebody would sign up for those programs. So we can put that on the website when we get notified. As of now, we're excited that we are going to be a pilot program for this, and this will set the stage for later when more vaccine is available and we'll be doing mass vaccinations out of these clinics. So that should really help our area coming in the future. So with that, Erin and I are available for questions.
So I have an update, I think, to your update. I had gotten contacted, and they will be working with you. They know that it shouldn't be one of us. By Andrew Burden, who was head of the state census efforts. He's now been pulled into this effort, and at least a small amount of additional information is, and it's not a whole lot of doses to begin with, but these will start this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. It will be at River's Edge in an adjacent room to where testing is done, and people should be able to, even as of today, to sign up online or have both the 800 number and the other number. I don't know if there's any way we can actually get that up on a screen. But again, half of those doses will be for people 65 and older. Half will be for E12. At this point, it sounds like it is truly E12, does not include childcare providers. I ask that we get that information because we have a lot of childcare providers that I think are really interested in this. But it sounds like the next 2 weeks, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, then there'll be a week break, and then it'll go again. And hopefully we will start seeing some more dosages quickly, because that will be important for people. And it's the 3-county area, but it will be at River's Edge and St. Cloud again. So that's good. That's good. And we really appreciate the work you all are doing on this. Anybody have any questions? Sorry, Erin.
If I can give you the 800 number right now if you'd like. And as Melissa indicated, we will post all of this information on the website as well. But just for reference now, the toll-free number is 833-431-2053. And those appointments will begin to be made available at noon today.
So small numbers right now, but it's really great to be building on the excellent work that's already happening in partnership with Centricare and our other counties and the city. Okay, anybody else?
I have a question.
Yes.
It's for Erin. Last time that you were on, I had asked you for updates on the flu infections, and you indicated that you would be giving those at the next time that you appeared. and I'm unable to find any updates. So I was wondering what you have on flu.
We do have flu information. We have requested an update specifically for the Stearns County area. The Minnesota Department of Health is tracking that on their website as they normally do. You can give me just a minute here. I can see if I can get the information available. We have the breakdown for like the entire state of Minnesota through the week of January 9th, 2021. There have been 22 hospitalizations for flu. The most common strain is influenza B. There are 3 school outbreaks that have taken place and 2 long-term care outbreaks that have taken place. And that is just for 2021.
And it sounds like that our numbers are across the country are way down in part because.
Correct. That is a statewide number for January 1 through January 9.
And if they have any way of getting us a more discrete number, that would be good. And I don't know if there's a comparison because I know at least from what I've been seeing and in a call I was in last week with the Department of Health, they were talking about flu numbers being way down in part because people are washing their hands and wearing masks and being further apart. All those good things. But if we can, yes, it's helpful for us to be able to keep on top of some of those numbers too. Anybody else?
Melissa and Aaron, I had a conversation with somebody from the State Department, and I was concerned about the number of people that are actually refusing or not taking the vaccination, the vaccine. You know, I would hope that the vaccine is going to help us get a handle on the pandemic, but yet it seems there's quite large numbers that are refusing it. You know, is there something we should be doing? Or, I mean, if we're going to, you know, take care of each other, wouldn't it be best if we were mostly all vaccinated, opposed to a good share of the population sitting out there unvaccinated? Do you know what the concerns are out there? Why we're not getting the response of higher numbers out there?
Aaron?
Madam Chair,
Or
Commissioners, Aaron, I don't know if you have specific information on that particular topic. What I'm hearing, and of course, I'm only hearing the side of high demand. So mostly I'm hearing people wanting the vaccine, not the opposite of that. But I think it's the typical, you know, a little nervous, like people do have side effects with this, which is one of the reasons why we don't take a department and vaccinate everybody on the same day. Because if people feel sick or feel ill, you're going to have your entire police department out in one day or a couple days. So I think it's the typical people being a little fearful, nervous, kind of want all you to try it first. And if it looks like it's going to be okay, then, you know, I'll try it. We've actually, the last I heard, and Aaron, I don't know if you know the specifics, the last I heard, we've actually had a significant amount of uptake on this particular drug, more than flu vaccine. But Aaron, is that what you're seeing or knowing?
Yep, it kind of varies by discipline to the number of people that are participating in this first round of vaccines. And another additional component to consider is we do have people that want to make it available for other populations and are declining at this time to make it available for some of the higher risk individuals. We also do, as we began this vaccination process and we asked for interest level of individuals in these different categories, who wants to participate. As we've started the actual vaccinations, we're having a much higher group of people come back and say, I've changed my mind, I do now want to be included. It varies greatly, the number of people that are participating from department to department. Some departments have a handful that are interested, whereas others have 75 to 80% of people who want to have them done. So I think we're going to continue to see that as vaccine becomes more available, as people feel more comfortable with the new type of vaccine that was developed, and as they're able to maybe talk with their healthcare providers and things about their specific situations, that we'll see more of that uptake.
And it sounds like that what you just said, something that Dr. George Morris from Centricare has been saying. They've had some staff that have wanted some higher risk folks to be able to get it, and now some other people are coming back and saying, I'm wanting it. And then I know that NPR had a story with Connie Jacobson, who's one of the outreach workers there with our Somali community, and working to try to make sure that, more people feel comfortable and than maybe currently have. But it's understandable. I think for all of us, we want to make sure we're getting something that's effective. And there's a lot of just stuff floating around. And the more we know people who are getting it and that it's worked, that's helpful.
I have another question.
Madam Chair, yes, and that's my concern is I don't want people not getting the vaccine because of fear and false information. Maybe there's some reluctancy and they'll eventually get the vaccine, yeah. But I'm concerned about getting.
That's partially why we're seeing an array of people getting the vaccines, whether they're a nano or octogenarian, or they're a vet, or they're a police chief, or whoever. We're seeing an array of people trying to help us see that, but it is still understandable. Jeff. Commissioner Mergen?
Yeah, I have a question again, either Melissa or Aaron. Yeah. Right now, you have to get 2 shots of the vaccine, but there's one that's supposedly coming out, and I'm not sure. It might be Madeira, where it's only supposed to be 1 shot should do the whole thing. And I was wondering, do you have any indications of when that would be available?
Aaron or Melissa?
My understanding is that so we have, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, did my question come through?
Yep. So
yes,
right now, we are working with Pfizer and Moderna as the 2 that have been publicly distributed, and Johnson & Johnson, which are moving forward with the approval process. I don't believe that either of them have made it to the FDA yet for that approval, but they are hoping to, in a very short time period here, move to those next approval processes. And yes, one of them was a 1-dose vaccine, which is different than the other 2 that we have already begun implementing.
So you don't have an idea exactly when that 1 dose would be available?
They have to get approved first. They're not through what they need to get through to get approved.
Assuming that they
Hopefully soon.
move through the approval process, you have any idea?
The approval process that we saw for both the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccine was pretty quick. It was about a week's time frame from when they submitted to when that approval process came out. I have no official knowledge of that, but I would envision it would be very similar, that they would go through that process as quickly and efficiently as possible, still doing their due diligence to make sure that we're doing everything that's needed.
They've got to have enough production.
Have they been submitted yet?
Had problems with that. I mean, it sounded like Johnson & Johnson said that they were behind a couple months from where they'd hoped to be. So can you all just keep us updated as you know, because it will help us get back in touch with our constituents and others. Lee, did you have something? Oops, can't hear you.
Is this any better?
Yes.
Okay. Bottom line is the next news story that you will get is, and this is so predictable, is going to be about situations where someone got the vaccine and it didn't work. Totally understandable. Our physiology might be similar, but it's also different. It's going to be situations where this stuff doesn't work. And the assumption that there is a vaccine out there, regardless of what it is, going to work in all cases, is pretty optimistic. And bottom line is, I listened to these discussions on this, and everybody, even including mild skeptics, wants to believe the Kool-Aid works. And there's going to be situations where it doesn't. That's why I make the point that, hey, get yourself immunized for everything else, especially if you're in the older age group, so that your body's in a better position to fight what comes next or whatever else might be out there. And in addition to appropriate self-care. So we all want to believe that there's a magic bullet out there. And come on, we all been around long enough to appreciate the fact that it doesn't always work, you know? So get off the Kool-Aid.
Good points. Well, hopefully we can, even just short updates are helpful for us. I know we all get asked lots of questions, including from our own families. Really appreciate this. Anything else? Otherwise, we'll move to issues by commissioner. Oh, wait, nope, stop. We've got to do the capital plan. So before we get to the question, since this was on the consent agenda, does somebody ready to make a motion to approve, and then we can go to Jeff's questions?
Well, here's something I think
Jeff,
that
just
this should
really
be
quickly.
split into two.
It
should be split into two.
Well, just trying to get back a little bit more to Robert's rules. But why don't you talk to us, tell us what you're concerned about there, and then let's have administration respond to that before we do a motion. Go ahead. You're thinking it should be.
Well, you know, it's got things in here for the projects, and that the way things are right now, I think we should be doing things that are necessary. I consider the boiler necessary, whereas I consider ring road modifications nice to have. And the way the private sector is hurting right now, especially certain industries, a good portion of it, I think we could put on hold the things that are nice to have and do the things that are necessary. That's why I'm thinking this should be split into two motions.
So I see we've been joined by Mr. Hammes. I don't know if you or Dr. Williams want to share some information with us, especially addressing what Commissioner Mergen has just raised.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Steve can get into more detail, but I think the first two, the boilers and the key card, we don't have a whole lot of choices there. The ring road is not necessarily the construction, but the design. So it's the beginning of considering that project. But Steve, go ahead.
Steve.
Well, and you took all my great words. Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. As Dr. Williams pointed out, this is the next step in the process. In the fall, the board did approve the project list of the capital plan for the next 5 years. And again, at this time, we are looking at moving forward with 3 projects, 2 of which, as was alluded to, are pretty much unnecessary at this point. The boilers in administration have started to break down. We are currently down to 1 unit of the 3 or 4 that are in the boilers. And being that it's January, we really don't want to have it that last unit fail. So that we really need to have approval to do the necessary repairs and replacement. The next one was the key card upgrade, which, as we indicated in the fall, our key card system has reached the end of its life. The vendor that we have no longer supports it, and we needed to move to the next tier of their platform in order to stay in compliance. And so that is what we're looking to do.
So can you clarify then what is before us at this time is solely these 2 items?
No, there are 3 items that were on the consent agenda items. So it was the boilers to go ahead and do a RFP replacement of that. The key card system upgrade doesn't fall to the level that it needs an RFP, but we again wanted to notify the board that that one was going forward. And the third one is the ring road improvements.
And I apologize for that. That it didn't get its own bullet. That's why my eyes were just seeing that wrong.
The ring road has been on our list for over a decade.
Right.
As I've mentioned to the board on several occasions, there are issues with access to the buildings and vulnerabilities of security that we have wanted to upgrade for a number of years. Certainly with all the things going on in the last year or so, that's something that's been heightened on our list. And as Dr. Williams pointed out, at this point, we need to do an RFP to get the design phase underway. This is not to authorize construction. This is to authorize design.
I've gotten a chance to talk to Dr. Williams about this, but I've gotten some questions from some folks downtown about the timing of when the ring road would be done and whether there would be additional parking at the same time and what this might mean just for people trying to get in and out of our building. Kind of both the security, but also accessibility when we're ready. So could you address a little bit of the timing of those projects?
Well, and I think part of it might be a little bit of confusion on some of the public. We're only looking at changing the ring road for that area that we own. And we own from the stop sign to the court facility building on the west side of the courthouse, around to the north half of the circle, all the way over to where the entrances for the parking lot in front of the administration building are.
Yeah, and actually, just so you know, it's some people from the downtown council, and they do know that. They're concerned about how access, entryway into our services once they're open again, things like that.
In terms of access,
sufficient parking.
One of the issues that has been brought up many times over access is that our handicap entrance is on the far west end of the administration building, where most of the people and our handicap parking is on the east side of the entrance. And so one of the things that we'll be looking at to kind of update is to move the handicap ramp or add an additional handicap ramp so it's actually closer to where the handicap stalls are. Because otherwise, right now, all those people have to park in those handicap stalls on the east side of the building, go all the way over to the west side to enter the ramp, and come all the way back up to the doors.
Right.
Which is, again, a lot farther distance than they would have to do if the ramp was aimed right at those handicap stalls. So that is one of the access pieces that we're looking to fix.
And to clarify, I was talking about parking ramp. I think there's, it's the ongoing, where do people park downtown? How far do people have to get to access services? Just the timing of those projects. I mean, obviously part of this is for security, part of this is in anticipation of a different facility for the jail, et cetera.
Right, and the parking ramp, that's a completely different project that we'll have more information on as the jail study is being completed. Again, I believe that we're scheduled to do another end of February, based on our consultants.
I'm not trying to make the horse be dead, Lee. The question I get is the timing of those, that if that's closed, it is going to impact parking and accessibility, not that there's a lot of parking on those streets right now. And where are people going to be?
The ring road will, closing off the ring road will remove about half a dozen, maybe a dozen parking spaces right in front of the court facility building. Yep. That is correct.
An ability to drop people off, things like that. That's what I mean.
You won't be able to get as close, but again, right now, the signs there say no parking. You're not supposed to stand or park right in front of the buildings currently. So this will, again, just make sure that actually isn't happening. Does that answer?
I'm not sure they'll consider that to be a satisfactory answer. Okay. All right. So this is to keep our
timing would be, again, design would happen in the spring. Implementation, again, if the board approves the design, would happen summer and fall.
Okay. And if we hold off, impacts when that project can be done, correct?
Again, if the board chooses to delay the project after design, that's certainly to them. It may be wrapped up in terms of, some synergy with the jail study too. You may not want to take actually the construction piece until that point as well. That's completely up to the board's discretion.
So you're asking for the design even if we hold off on building. Is that correct?
At this point, we're asking for the ability to do an RFP to get the planning underway.
Okay. Yep.
That still costs money. My point in pulling this is I would support the boiler and key card system upgrades because I consider them necessary. And I don't think anything that is nice to have, and which would be starting even the design here, should be done until the private sector is 100% up and running. And that I'll support the first two, but not that. that last one.
And to that end, can you remind us where these funds are coming from?
We have been using
We have the funds already set
we have
aside?
had funds set aside. We've been using fund balance for these funds. And again, scheduling to replace some of the fund balance with the next issue of our capital improvement bonds when we release those later this year. So these are already designated in our fund balance or in designated from our bonds. And I understand Commissioner Mergen's opinion that this is a nice to do project, and this has been from the capital plan and the budget committee as a safety issue because of the vulnerability of two of our buildings.
Could we split
Madam
this
Chair.
into two motions?
Joe?
Yeah, Steve, my concern would be similar to Jeff's concern, but not so much with design, but more with concrete. And you know, I certainly, want to see us move forward with, the law enforcement center. But I don't want to see us put concrete in around the admin building, and then because we're changing things with the new jail and sheriff's department, that we're taking out that new concrete. So, I want to make sure that the dollars we spend on those rearrangements are made one time instead of two times.
That's perfectly
Steve?
The
understandable.
horse is starting to gasp. The horse is starting to gasp.
Do you want to make a motion, Lee?
I suggest
I
we go
would.
forward with this. Go ahead, Jeff.
All right.
I would move that we do the boilers and the key card system upgrades. And that's my motion.
So you're suggesting
And
split,
if the ring road would be a different motion.
You can do that. I'll second that.
second?
And then
Okay.
less than two pieces.
Okay, all right. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, let's go ahead and vote. Steve, District 5.
Aye.
District 1, aye. District 2,
Aye.
District 3,
Aye.
District 4.
Aye.
Okay, now is there a motion regarding the design work for the downtown campus buildings with the approach, the alternate approaches?
Yeah, I'll make that motion provided, somebody can answer whether Commissioner Persky's concern is prudent in this matter.
I think that's a good question.
Commissioner Notch, Mr. Madam Chairman, Commissioners.
So did Steve make a motion? If Steve made a motion.
He said he's
then
making
we
it
should have a
provided he gets
second
that answer.
discussion.
Lee, the reason why I didn't go further, he said he was making it providing he got an answer to that.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
That's the only reason why I was waiting. Right.
Commissioners, our goal between myself and Kevin, our facilities manager, is to try to do something that isn't just a bunch of concrete that would need to be ripped up for the jail study or any time. That we would be doing something and bringing a design forward that would look aesthetically pleasing as well as being practical for the purposes that we want to move forward with the project.
Okay.
So I'm not going to tell you it's going to have the exact same plans as what's between the court facility and the jail, but it would look nice as well as functional.
All right, so I think we have a motion then, is that correct, Steve? All right, is there a second? Lee, do you want to make a second?
I can do that.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. We'll go by district, starting with District 1, aye. District 2? Joe, I can't hear you.
Did we get into discussion on this? My question is, this is just design only, correct?
This is design only, I should have confirmed that.
Yes. Okay, I'll vote aye.
Okay, District 3?
Nay.
District 4?
Aye.
District 5?
Aye.
All right. The motion is approved. All right, let's do issues by commissioners. Joe? You got any?
Yeah, I had contact from a couple of constituents about access to the license center. And I, first of all, I want to applaud everybody that's been working on that because with all the things we've got going on with different licensure, registration and all that stuff, it's difficult because people are used to walking in and getting things done, but now they can't walk in. So Randy or Mike, can you give us an update where we might be with that or how we are with things related to access?
I can do that, and if Carol's okay, I can kind of go through a little bit of a status and a reopening plan. So I've got comments from Commissioner Persky and Lensmeyer, and I've talked this over with Dr. Williams. So looking at a way to kind of start opening up the license center to help some people get business done, as we've heard those concerns. But just a reminder, pre-COVID, the license centers were very busy. We had standing room only, about a 2-hour wait to get a driver's license. We typically do about 700 at West a day and 300 at admin. Currently, we are getting more business in the license center. There's about 20% of our customers are coming from other counties or the metro area. We have doing things by appointment. We're getting a lot of calls. We get over 400 calls a day. Some new things that are happening is Benton County, for instance, is not doing any dealer work, so those dealers are coming to us. Real IDs are starting to pick up more again, and the state is not doing renewals of driver's license or the new driver's license. So about half of our driver's license are ones typically the state office would do. So to open the license center, what we would propose is to continue to serve customers by appointment for the longer transactions. So driver's license and title transfers, for instance. Allow walk-in customers for tab renewals only. Those are the very quick ones, and those are typically the transactions that people notice that their tabs have been expired and they want to get in and get it done right away. To do that, we'd have to hire a couple extra temps. We do not want to have long lines, and certainly, a lot of people piled up inside or outside. So we have to hire a couple temps per location and then do various setup work. We will talk to the campus deputies, and they can help us with allowing only so many people in the building at one time. So of course, we would work with administration and public health to make sure this is a safe way of doing that. But if you're interested in opening up the license center more, this is what we would propose.
I'm wondering what impact the concerns over more, the more contagious version of this virus might impact. And I know that you all need to have conversations more internally. And yes, for many people, getting this going is going to be important.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I think we just saw this this morning too. But I think it looks good, and we all know we need to begin to open up at some point. But this is I think a slow step, but I do want the administration to work with Randy and public health just to make sure everybody's comfortable with it before we put it in action.
Okay.
And of course, I'd be supportive of that too. We want to make sure it's a plan that works for everybody, and it is safe for both the staff and customers.
Randy, I have a question. Is there any way that we can put some pressure on these other entities to pull their end? Why should we be picking up for Benton County and everybody else?
Yeah, the biggest concern is the state of Minnesota. That's where we're getting a lot of the calls because they're not handling calls very well, and then they're not. So somebody goes in and does a test now and passes their driver's test, for instance. Well, they're not letting them come into the office to do their driver's license application. They're sending them to us. So those are the two big areas that are causing a lot of time and effort on our staff. I would love to be able to tell the state we have to do this stuff differently, but I don't have a very big voice there. So that being said, we have a very good relationship with the state office, but this is coming down from St. Paul. So,
Steve.
Mike, do we have
Commissioner
any?
Notch? Wait, Joe, just a minute. Commissioner Notch?
Well, I was going to mention too, there are a bunch of private entities that do this as well. I don't know if you're getting swamped, if you recommend, I think the city of Painesville and Albany, Fox Center, I think St. Cloud has other places as well, if that helps loosen that load.
Randy?
I think it certainly does, but we're the biggest, game in town, so we end up seeing a lot. So.
And I know it's a revenue source, so you don't want to give it up, but.
And I've heard from people who are glad about the drive-through because they don't have to go into the building. And that ends up being tricky because it's not like we have more opportunity for more drive-through.
Yeah, so this certainly would take some of the pressure off the drive-through. People, especially, it seems like from other areas, will come and gladly sit in the drive-through for an hour or two waiting to get a tab renewal, which we think is ridiculous, but that's just what they do. So if we can get those folks out of the drive-through line, that'll help the drive-through too.
And if you all, after you get a chance to review it more, can just email and let us know what you're deciding, that would be great. Joe, did you have something else? I want to make sure we're moving on. We're right at the end of the agenda.
Right. And Randy, I was just going to make a suggestion about the drive-through. Is there any way we could possibly establish a drive-through on a rental basis? And what I'm saying is that, do we have banks that are maybe vacated a drive-through, or a restaurant that's vacated a drive-through, that some of those quick transactions we could have with someone have a substation out there, pay the rent till we get through this COVID, and then, not use it anymore? I mean, just thinking outside the box.
Right, and we looked at that way back in April and May when this all started. The state does have to approve any locations, and for various reasons, it just didn't work out. Part of it, I suppose, was state approval, but I remember we did look at that in some detail.
Okay.
If you're okay with this opening plan and working with admin and public health, it would be helpful to have a motion on this because
Randy, this is the first time we've seen any of this. I personally don't feel comfortable moving on it until you've gotten a chance to together vetted it. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I'm even concerned about how many people will be in there. What does this look like? What do other, there's just a lot of other things. I mean, it really should have been an agenda item if we were going to move on it today.
Yeah, this kind of came late last week, so we put it together.
Right, this is the first time administration got to see it was this morning. I'm not sure it's quite ready for us to vote on.
But what I'm concerned is if you don't do it today, you're going to delay it by another 2 weeks, but that's
right. But if it needed to be done, it should have been on our agenda. It could have been added.
I think one thing I think we need to do is even go back and kind of see if there's board action necessary here based on some of the other resolutions that you've adopted too. So,
I mean, it's once you all have gotten a chance to work it out, that would. This is a question after all the work about what are the numbers of people that can be in the building at a given time? Are they going to be wearing masks? What does that mean? What does the new strain mean? There's all the work out. Whatever you all work out, personally, I'm fine with.
Yeah, I think you.
I don't think you've got.
I think you pointed to one thing that I think we have to have a conversation about. We've never really said that masks are optional for customers. We've said that people need to wear them, unless they have a valid reason why they shouldn't. We haven't.
So if you all could talk about that offline instead of us doing this now, that would be good.
And Madam Chair, and I'd be comfortable if they can move forward with things that they can without board approval, because we'd like to get some of those things moving.
Yep, I agree. Okay. Joe, did you have anything else? Okay, otherwise District 3, Jeff.
I have one thing, got an email from Emily Murray, and I'm not sure if all of you received it or not, concerning the EMC Transportation Policy Committee members. I don't know if everybody's seen that, but and she's looking for some feedback for the statewide system. And I contacted Jody and got some input from her. That's what she thought. But I'm looking and I'm going to respond to Emily. And the things that Jody kind of gave me were capacity improvements for Highway 23 throughout the state from South Dakota all the way up to where it hits 35. And then Highway 15 through St. Cloud areas, several intersections need some updates because they're really dangerous intersections. And then she had a few other things, but I was wondering if anybody else had any thoughts on areas of concern or if anybody else really did receive this email from Emily Murray.
I think it'd be great to see the email. I haven't seen it. I know that they did some focus, the state did some focus groups with regard to those roads that you just said. So I know both myself and Commissioner Persky gave some input earlier. Is it possible for you to send it through Jody or Mike?
I can send it to Mike and then let him disperse it. That would be legal, right?
That would be great. And then we can get the information, anything else people want to say back so you can, to Mike, and then you can get it.
It sounds like what you have so far is consistent with our legislative platform too, Commissioner Morgan.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
I will send it to you then, Mike, too. I sent you a couple other ones. Did you get those?
I did.
Okay.
I received the one on broadband, and I can certainly make a contact there. I don't know that there was much reason to follow up on the other one. I'll reread it.
Okay. Yeah, that was for your information, kind of, but the broadband one, I wasn't really sure how I should respond to that, so I thought there's somebody else that's more involved that could respond to that.
Yep, I will. There's not a whole lot we can do, but there's times when I've connected someone that makes those kind of comments up with a provider or a provider that they might not know about, that kind of thing. So I'll pursue it.
Thanks, Jeff. That's really
thank you.
Bring that up. Okay, Lee.
Clark, just on Highway 15, we did get the approval of the study, and that's on the website. Some significant things there, so anybody wants to look at Highway 15, it's out there.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Joe. Lee, District 4? I think you're saying move on, but I can't hear you. Okay. Steve Notch.
Just a quick question maybe for administration. Going through the disbursements, have we seen an uptick in like county funding for funeral home expenses?
I don't think I can, Commissioner Notch, I don't think I can answer that off the cuff, but I can certainly find out. If you're noticing it may
Okay,
be.
I just picked that up this morning and noticed there was quite a few this morning when I looked through it. That's why. You don't have to answer now.
It's an ongoing expense.
Oh, great. Lucas Sostrom did resign from the Parks Board from my district.
I think
So I'll be looking for somebody for that.
Okay, we had a little lag, so you'll be looking for that. Did you, I think the other one, I wasn't sure if you were going to do it or if you wanted me to bring it up, the watershed, your suggestion had been for Lee and I to do the interviews like we did last time and bring back a recommendation. Both of us are willing to, but we just wanted to make sure that was okay with the other members, correct? Is that? All right. So we will do that, and then I know that Carrie's going to try to get those set up rather quickly so we can have that back, the recommendation back for the next meeting. Anything else, Steve?
Nope, that's all I have.
Okay, just, go ahead.
Madam Chair, let me just
Yes.
go back to Commissioner Notch. I didn't know if Melissa was still on, but she did inform me that we have had an uptick in those costs, and we can get you some more detail on it too.
Yeah, that's helpful to know.
Okay. Yeah, just a curiosity. I noticed a bunch of them this last time.
Yeah. It's a sad one. So just kind of in addition to what everybody else brought up, just a reminder, there's a solid waste process going on right now, and Troy's trying to get people to fill out the solid waste survey. So if you've got constituents you think might be interested, it's worth sending a link. There's a little video explaining online, and it actually, I think, will be useful when it comes back to not only for us, but for Tri-County. So just wanted to point that one out. And then actually, Jeff and Mike, the broadband question is also timely. It looks like Representative Pulaski's doing a hearing tomorrow. I've been reached out to testify, but it looks like he's only taking written comments. So hopefully Micah and AMC, Mike is circling back with you so we can make sure the issues we've been seeing are in there. And I think that's it. Lots of things going on. All right. I do not believe we need a motion to adjourn. So since we are through with our business, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. See ya.